Hello and welcome to Week 3 of the GSTL Venus League. This is the Friday matches for the GSTL. Our first match is going to be FXOpen Esports versus NS Hoso. NS Hoso stands for New Star Hoso, for anyone that hasn't heard that yet. And our next match will be IM versus Zenex team. FXOpen Esports is, of course, our foreign resident team in GSTL in Seoul, Korea. This is the GSTL. Welcome here, and here they come down. I am Torch, and I will be joined by FXO Wolf momentarily, but he is also a member of the FXO team and must represent them as well. Very nice mannered guys. They are looking to get their first win so far this season. They are currently 0-2, but have shown some really good potential so far, and we can see if they're going to clutch out a win this week. Their opposing team will be NS Hoso. NS Hoso, a team that did not play in the GSTL so far. The first 3 seasons of GSTL were only the top 8 ranking GSL playing teams. NS Hoso was in the 9th place for that, so they are showing their first skills here this season, but they are doing very, very well so far, currently having beaten FOU in a very nice fashion by Sage, all killing their team, making the score 1-4. We are going to see if they can get a second victory here today against FXO. How you doing, FXO Wolf?
Hey, I'm doing great. I just sat down. I'm feeling pretty good. There's that flag there given by QXC. I'm really excited today, Torch. I don't know what you've been talking about since I've been gone, but I'm sure it's been all wonderful and good things.
Only how I'm really excited to see if Sage can come back here and all kill the FXO team.
Well, I think it's entirely possible. That guy, he's great. I watched those games he played against FOU, and he crushed him, man.
So here is the FXO team in a moment.
There they are. Of course, they were established on December 11th, 2010. They're in 10th place in GSTL point ranking. Obviously, they're 0-2 so far. Haven't really done that well here yet, but hopefully
we'll
they'll
see
change
some changes very soon. Yeah, you guys have been working very hard, and the first match against Startail went very, very well. It was a 4-2 score. Everyone was expecting an all-kill, but you guys actually clutched out a lot of good matches. There's the full team. We don't have everyone here today.
Yeah.
Sheth is actually representing FXO and a lot of the American players in the NASL.
Yep.
So he will be back next week. But in the meantime, there's a lot of other really skilled players here that can definitely take on the team NS Hoso.
Yeah. As you can see, Sean's name is highlighted in yellow, as is Dan's. Dan, of course, is the coach of the team. I help him coach as well, but I'm doing a lot of different jobs right now, obviously. And Sean is the team captain. He's not here. So right now, kind of our captain is like QXC, but basically everyone relies on Dan, FXO and Stable there to kind of carry the team, make a lot of decisions. I help him with a lot of those decisions as well. But there's the team, and I'm, all of those guys, every one of them you see there has been practicing really hard. Even Sheth, even though he's not here today, he's been helping everyone, practicing with them, making sure they're prepared for today. Yeah,
and a lot of people underestimate the value of having that team dynamic. It's not just about the 4 players that do end up playing in the GSTL, but the entire team has a very vital role in making sure that everyone plays to their peak potential. The managers are very important, the coaches are very important, everyone that you practice with is going to show you the strategies that you're really going to end up using in these matches.
Absolutely.
So our first match for today is going to be on Crevasse, correct?
That is correct. But before we talk about that, let's talk about our opponents here. NS Hoso walking in here. A great, very strong team, a very new team as well.
Yep. Yeah, I was talking about that before. This is the first time that they are showing themselves, but they have done 1-0 so far, which is a really good job against the FOU team. And this team is a lot younger of the players themselves.
Yeah.
A lot of their players came from the NSP clan, but the NS Hoso team is actually a team sponsored by a technical college in Korea, which is, it's really good to support young people in esports, but then also a lot of people that watch esports are going to be going into these very intelligent technical fields, and it's good to advertise the schools as well.
Yeah, I really like that. It's kind of like the college scene that's growing right now in the US.
Yeah.
For StarCraft, like the CESL, the CSL, all those collegiate star leagues are great for spreading esports and helping the college scenes grow more and more. If you get those teams, I mean, imagine if we had college StarCraft like we have college basketball, college football. Wouldn't that be awesome?
You don't need to imagine. It's going to happen very, very soon. It's just everyone needs to do their part. If you're at a school, look to see what clubs you can start and see what players you can bring in, even if it's just to watch matches that are like the GSL and get the word out there. But this is the NSO team. As we were citing, it's a very, very new team. February 25th, 2011. It's only a few months old, and it takes a while for the team to get recognized enough to get the good players, and then for the good players to mesh well enough that they're getting the practice they need to reach their potential. They do have very strong Protoss players. a lot of people know San. He used to be known as San Zenith, but he joined NS Hoso team when it started. He was a Code S player, but recently got knocked out by FXO Chef. So it's interesting that we're seeing those two teams fight again here as a complete unit, not just individuals today.
Yeah. Plus, they just have a lot of processes that people don't really know in general. Like, you see Core over there on the right. He's actually been around for a long time. It's just he hasn't really been recognized as much as maybe he should be.
That is true, and maybe we can see him come out here today and really show a lot of the strong Protoss elements of the team.
Yeah, if you look up a lot of these players' names, you'll actually see them in TLPD as playing in the open seasons. They've played in all sorts of tournaments out there. You just are like, I've never heard of Zenith's Core, but if you look him up, you'll be like, oh, he used to be Core Zenith.
And a lot of the players that aren't of Code S caliber actually do change their names a lot. It's something that once they reach the stardom, they keep a standard, consistent name, but they are changing a lot. So it's hard to keep track of them. You really need to look at websites like gumtv.net where you can see the player's history and know exactly what they played in before. So something that we have a little treat here today. John is actually gracing us with his presence at the studio.
Yes,
he's here as the main translator for FXO. And making sure that they understand all the rules and anything that might be changing or going on throughout the match.
Yeah, basically, like Torch is saying, they basically describe the rules here, but it's really just a formality. It's like the coin toss in football or something. It's it decides who chooses which side they're going to play on first, who's going to be offense, etc., etc. But it's like a formality too. It's a very nice thing to do.
Yeah.
It just shows it's good sportsmanship. That's the bottom line.
Good sportsmanship is vital to growing the league. Like, you can have a league with a lot of drama early on, but when you have that drama, you actually create real drama outside the game, and then it just tears the entire organization apart from the inside. So having those formalities, good sportsmanship, being friendly to your opponents, even if you're doing it not being friendly in a showman way like a lot of the North American players do, they are very friendly in person usually, and that's very, very important. And a lot of viewers that watch StarCraft and esports in general think that the bad manner that people see in game is also carried outside the game, and that's really not true. And it's really not okay for the lower level players to think that they can actually be bad-mannered outside the game.
I mean, you've seen a lot of talks in those little coach interviews, players saying, oh, I can beat this team because they don't have MC and things like that. And in interviews, sometimes it's okay to say things like that, but then they go and shake the guy's hand, and then they're respectful, and that's really important because everyone has opinions of people behind their back, and sometimes they say things in interviews that they're just saying because it's an interview, or they actually feel that, but they don't dislike the person, even though based on what they've said in the past, it may seem like they do. They're still respectful, and that's what really matters.
And that is very important to carry over to everything that people do in esports. This is a very small community. If you burn someone early on, it's going to carry through to everyone that you're going to deal with in the future.
And, I mean, you guys have seen examples of that. We don't need to get into it. It exists all the time. So like you were saying before, the first map is going to be Crevasse.
Yep. Different map. We are going to see who are the first players.
It's going to be Seal is the member from NS Hosa and
Zerg player.
Yeah, he's used to go by a different name. I think it was June. Is that right?
Yeah, his actual name is June. He's one of the few Koreans that actually have a last name, which is one character, and then a first name, which is only one character. Usually the first names are two characters.
Right.
Not rare, but uncommon.
Yeah.
So he used to go by his handle of just his name. Just a little tidbit of information for you guys sitting at home.
Yep, and FXO's player is going to be FXO Odds. So
this will be exciting.
Formerly known as Twilight Foyu, also Endless Foyu, was on the team Height Sparkies. He's a guy you guys have probably heard of. He's really good, and he really wanted to start today, so he's starting.
Yeah, and Oz is generally seen as your ace player, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of like sending out an ST first or something like that for Incredible Miracle. It's just not something you would expect. But we've got some specific things planned, and I'll get into that later.
Yeah,
but
a lot of the players in these team leagues have, or a lot of the coaches actually, have fallen into a set strategy form where you play your certain players to start, to open up, and then you try to snipe a bunch of other players until you get to your ace player, which is generally your best player, and he'll be last. But that's not the only strategy out there. There's a lot of different ways of playing this team league. There's so much in-depth strategies that go on here that a lot of people are just starting to get into, and that's what makes the team league so much more interesting. Well, interesting in a different way than the individual leagues.
That's a very good point, because a lot of coaches have this mindset of, oh, well, this is how it's always going to be, and we're always going to play this guy when a Zerg comes out, always going to play this guy when a Terran comes out, and that's not very flexible. And so, you're starting to see that change a little bit, like MVP. I noticed that MVP didn't do that yesterday. They actually had a plan, but they didn't necessarily stick with it. They kind of switched players around based on what they thought was more appropriate.
Yeah.
And I think we're starting to see that more and more, and that's kind of the style that FXO is doing, and we're putting out one of our best players first.
Yep.
And you know, it's something that some people might frown on, but I think it's a good choice here overall. I'm going to take a look at those players now.
So this is FXO Oz, as we were talking about. He is the ace of the FXO team, meaning he is one of their better players, but he will be coming out first, and it's going to be interesting to see how this affects the gameplay, because by putting him out first, you start off on a good footing and you can really rally your team behind it, but it also makes it a lot easier for the other team to find the weakness of your player and exploit it eventually. But he is...
Well, I was just going to say that, for example, he's really well known. Everyone knows him in Korea. He plays on the ladder. He's a really nice person. He's very talkative. He talks to all sorts of teams. When he was on FOU, coaching FOU, he also helped other teams out. He didn't just stay with FOU and only talk to FOU. He's helped out a ton of teams. A lot of people know his personality, know his style. So it's, you know, sending him out first makes him somewhat predictable. And if he loses, it does put FXO in kind of a weird spot. Yeah. Because then, you know, who's their next ace, who are they going to use? It's kind of one of those choices that gets made that a lot of people disagree with for that reason.
That is true, but again, it is the two sides of the coin, so you really have to just analyze what's best for your team, and it is good to change that up every once in a while. We do have Seal out here. He has 0 wins so far in televised matches, so this is probably NSH trying to get one of their younger players, not the best exposure, trying to get him a little bit out there, just because, as we were saying before, NSH is a very young team. A lot of their players are not stars yet, and the only way to become stars is to play in these televised matches and show your true potential.
Absolutely. Obviously, that record not very telling. I mean, you only play one game and you lose it. I mean, that's not a. This doesn't say much.
Yeah, it also depends on who you played.
Exactly. So, kind of curious to see what he's doing. I actually wish I knew how old he was. I guess that's maybe a mystery. That's why it's not shown there. But
he's really a robot.
He looks young. He's really a robot. There is no age.
There's a
he was manufactured like a few weeks ago. That's why there's only one game played, man.
He loses this one, then they...
he was programmed to lose that game.
So people will underestimate him.
So the map is going to be Crevasse. Now, both of these guys have known about this for a long time. How the Team League works is both players announce their first player the Monday before their match in the morning, and when you tell the other opponent's team what player you've chosen, they tell you theirs, and that's kind of how it works. So both players have had 4 days to prepare for this map and this matchup. So they're both, you know, got to be extremely ready. They probably practiced with their team all week. I mean, I know Oz has. I don't know about Seal, but if he didn't, it'd be crazy. I'm sure he's been practicing ZVP all week on this specific map to be ready for it.
Yeah, getting that first victory is really, really important, and a little bit of something that's dangerous for the FXO. We're actually going to be jumping into the game here right now.
Yep, let's get into it. Oz versus Seal, FXO versus NSH. Who will get the first win? Let's find out here at the GSTL Venus, week number 3. All right, up here at the top right, a member of the team FXO used to be on FOU. He is
FXO Z.
Apparently his handle is Z, not Oz.
Yeah, it's supposed to be Oz. Probably a typo there. Down here at the bottom right, a member of the team NSH. He is
NSH Seal.
All right, so right now, what you guys will notice right off the bat is that Haksu didn't wall off. He's making his first pylon next to his Nexus.
Yeah, and basically that means he's not going to be going for a fast outer expansion, but it is Crevasse, so you do have that expansion behind your main choke point, and that expansion, as we've said many, many times on air, has an extra high-yield gas.
That's true.
And that high-yield gas allows you to mine gas it a little bit faster, so you're a lot more efficient with your workers early on.
Now, this strategy, I'll go ahead and tell you guys, is something that a lot of Pro players do, and Haksu in general, he's been practicing this specifically, is to make the pylon next to his Nexus, so when the Zerg comes and scouts, he feels like, wait, you didn't wall off and you're going to make a fast Nexus, I can be aggressive. And then Haksu is practicing against so many different types of all-in strategies that when, if, for example, Seal decides to get aggressive, he should be able to defend, so it's kind of baiting his opponent to be aggressive, and then he's prepared for it.
But we do see here that he's not going to be immediately aggressive so far. He is throwing down that second hatchery right now in his natural, while Oz puts down his Nexus. So they're about the same timing. Oz is going to be scouted very soon here with this Overlord, so NSH is going to know exactly what's going to be going on, but it makes them both a little bit comfortable in choosing their initial strategies.
FXOpen, hell, it's about time. That's actually a cheerful that was made online.
Yeah, for anyone of you guys at home, you can make cheerfuls. A lot of people that have come to the studio have made cheerfuls on their own, but it's an opportunity that we want to give to everyone out there on the internet. If you want to make a cheerful digitally, you can send it to gumtv.net. I'm not exactly sure where to send it to, but just check out the
Yeah, there's a
forums,
thread on Team Liquid that Snowbird made about it. He actually is the one who manages those, so check that out, because honestly, if you want a cheerful on air and you're like, oh, I'm so sad I can't make one because I'm not at the studio, you can just make one online and someone will print it out and put it on a card for you.
Yep, so we can show you guys a lot of your fandom in Korea, even though you are not in Korea. Great opportunity for you.
So right now, the Overlord does come in here and sees the Cybernetics core is positioning. He's seen the Nexus first already, of course. Hawksu, of course, has seen everything as well. Scouted. Dad's opponent has made that hatchery first. He knows the gas is there. He essentially knows, both players now know exactly what's going on. There's no confusion, there's no mystery.
And as we were talking about before, there is that high yield gas in the expansion. Both players choosing to get that first. They delayed the need for getting gas by going for an early expansion, and then they're going to get it very, very quickly, so they're going to be able to catch back up by having a later gas. It's
really cool because it allows a Zerg player to go hatch first and then also get Zergling speed very quickly. He's already started that. And normally you wouldn't be able to have it quite this quick because you don't have that extra gas, but of course he does this time.
And there's a lot of features that are in the map editor that Blizzard has created for StarCraft 2 that haven't yet been used for these multiplayer melee maps, and it's going to be really interesting to see how the game evolves, not only with the players themselves, but with the maps that are being used in tournaments.
Absolutely. So what Seal's going to have to decide here is, does he get aggressive shortly, or does he take a third base? And that's something that a lot of players kind of have to struggle with. It looks like he's actually going to go for a fast lair.
Yep, and that lair is going to give him the tech to be able to choose a lot of different paths. He can get very fast Mutalisks, and with those Mutalisks he can harass the expansion of Oz, or he can go for a lot of different options.
Now right now, Oz has added 4 additional gateways, and in fact he's actually added a Twilight Council, so he's gone up to 4 gates. Got that Twilight Council coming out, so it looks like he's going to be going for very quick Blink or Dark Templar. Dark Templar is something that Oz loves to use in all different kinds of matchups, and it looks like Seal is actually going to see this Zealot pressure coming out, which is very important.
And in response, he is going to get a bunch of extra links here, and Zergling speed is finishing. He's going to try to do a little run by, maybe take out some of the reinforcements that are coming in, or just try to get some scouting that's going on. But the Zealots are going to be able to move across the map and put a little bit of pressure, which, again, you force the Zerg to produce fighting units instead of producing drones to be able to get their economy up.
He was able to kill that probe, which does, of course, slow down any pressure that can come out. And there's the Dark Shrine. You guys can see it on the production tab, as well as an Infestation Pit. So both of these guys kind of making tech choices here. The Zergling's going to try to come in here. The Zealot, though, is prepared and blocking. But when these rocks fall, things can get really nasty. He's going to have to wall that again with a gateway.
It is going to be interesting to see how these Infestors come into play, because before you get actual vision of the Dark Templars, you can use the fungal growth from the Infestors to actually freeze the Dark Templars in place and then slowly kill them.
Exactly. Now here come these Zealots. They're running up the ramp, and actually Seal is not prepared for this. He only has 1 Spinecrawler. He's going to have to lose it. He's got 26 Lings in production, but even those may not be enough if they don't come out quickly enough.
And these Lings are going to be able to try to take down the wall, so we have fights going on in both bases. The Zealots are getting hurt, and they are getting slowly taken out, but not before taking down a Queen of Seal. This is hurting the economy of NSH Seal, but he is doing a little bit of a counterattack. No serious damage, but he gets the scouting that he needs to know that the Dark Templar are coming.
Seeing those Dark Templar is huge, but remember, he did already have a fast lair up. So he's got that infestation research going for the pathogen glands. When that finishes, his infestors are going to be able to come out with enough energy for a fungal. Plus, he's already got an Overseer on the field, so these Dark Templar are going to do very minimal damage. And right now, smartly, Seal has made 9 drones because he knows that there's not that many gates out. He's in a great spot. These sentries over here on the right side of the map may get caught, but good force fields. Great positioning of those sentries.
As soon as these force fields are going to go down, these Zerglings might try to attack him again. Before doing that, they're going to take off the reinforcements to make sure that army of the Protoss does not grow too large. If you can isolate the units, these Zerglings are very, very efficient in small battles. And the Overseer actually smartly getting away and going home. He's going to use that Overseer at home to detect against the DTs, but they can also use his abilities later when he gathers the energy up, since he hasn't died quite yet.
That's true, and exactly. We'll get a shot of this here in a second. I was going to say, I think he's going to make an Archon with those DTs because he's already seen the Overseer. He knows that making DTs is not really going to be effective. He may try to break up this ramp here again, but essentially what he's doing right now is making sure the Zerg cannot take a third base.
Yes, and that's actually more important than anything else right now. He went for the DT the tech path, but what that forces Seal to do is get the counter to it, which costs money right in itself. So just by forcing your opponent to do something, you've made things efficient.
Oh no, he got fungled on the ramp. He's going to get fungled again, and all of those sentries will die.
Well, these infestors actually do not have energy to do another fungal, but that was very, very vital
Close
for
call, man.
Seal. He forced that entire force to run away. They're all very hurt. They need to regenerate their shields.
A Ling run by coming here, but Haksu scouts it just immediately. I keep saying Haksu. Sorry, guys. I'm meaning to say, of course, Oz. It's just his Korean name. That's what we call him in the house. And it looks like these Lings are going to be forced to run away. Pylon is canceled. Great reaction time there by Haksu. Great choice to take a hidden base by Seal. I like that choice.
Yeah, hidden bases in a situation where your opponent's putting on a soft contain are great because he can't completely put an Iron Curtain up to say that you can't get any drones out, but it's also he's got to invest most of his resources into keeping that containment going. So if you can sneak a drone out, you can really get a base up and get it without your opponent countering it.
This is true. Now the Templar Archives has finished. He doesn't have a ton of gas right now, but he's going to want to use those Templar not for Storm, but for feedback on these infestors. Of course, Storm can be good, but when you have mostly Zerlings and you already have Archons out anyways, you don't really need those Storms against the Zerlings. It's just for those infestors. A Baneling that's going down, that's kind of an interesting timing for that.
It's an interesting timing, but I think he sees that most of Oz's army is actually light units, Zealots and Sentries. If he can take down both of those units with the Banelings, he can really make the army of Oz quite weak.
Yeah, he just has to avoid the Archons. Of course, Archons are not what you want to fight with Banelings. They have so much hit points, they're not light, and they do so much damage to Banelings, so you have to be very careful about that. Looks like a Dark Templar has joined the mix here. He may try to feed back the Overseers as well when he gets some High Templar out. Well, Corruption there going down on top of that upgrade. It's always a great choice to throw that down if you can. Really delays that +1 attack. Neural Parasite has been researched. We may see him Neural Parasite some of these Archons.
That would be huge. There's only 2 Archons in the battle right now, so if you can steal them and put them on your side of the army, really changes the battle.
Yeah, they do bonus damage to biological units, and Zealots, of course, are biological units, so turning those Archons against them would be quite great. Also, Sentries don't have that much hit points, so the splash damage really starts to damage them as well. More gateways going up here for Oz. He may try to do a timing attack on that third base or fourth base, I should say, the base that he thinks is the third at the natural.
But there's a lot of infestors in play. It's going to be difficult to feed back all of them with that fungal growth in addition to the neural parasite that's making this Zerg army extremely powerful.
Great usage of that Xel'Naga Watchtower there by Oz. He was able to see this army coming. Had he gotten fungal there, the game may have just ended.
And he is actually sending a bunch of units off to the left, upper left expansion. He wants to just make sure he knows exactly what's going on. I think he's going to be scouting this lower left expansion by Seal very soon.
Yeah, he realizes what's going on. He's like, that's too many units. You can't really be on that off of just 2 bases. There's got to be a third base somewhere.
Yep.
And Ling's going to run over here to see what's going on. Looks like he's going to go for an attack here. There aren't any High Templar out. There's just one. That's not going to be enough.
And the warping in units do get fungal growth. There's a nice... Oh, no! The Neural Parasite on both Archons. That's what we were talking about before. This is huge for Seal. He is going to be able to take down a lot of the units of Oz.
This is looking really bad. The Archons killing each other. The Stalkers, though, dupling forward. They're doing a lot of damage to these infestors that are off creep. And I think this attack has been relatively unsuccessful by Seal.
Yeah, it was a very nice move by Seal to punch in there, steal those heavy units for Oz, but the thing is that Seal was only able to take down the light units of Oz, and the reinforcements with these Blink Stalkers are able to chase down these very weak infestors.
Yeah, he just has no support for those infestors. That's the thing. If he had come with just a few more Lings, it would have been a great choice, like he's doing now. Archon's stolen again here, doing a ton of splash damage, and actually this is looking really bad for Oz. He may lose a lot of these units, but again, that one Archon that is attacking Zerglings just does so much damage. He micros it away.
And fortunately for Oz, both of these Archons and this Immortal stay alive, and that's going to be the huge thing, is because those are the units that are really hard to reinforce later on.
Well, another thing that's huge is that those Zealots were able to sneak over there and take out that base at the left side. And the problem right now for Seal is that he has no mining at that natural, and I don't know if he's going to be able to keep that natural when this next attack hits. He's running out of energy on these infestors. He's running out of infestors in general. Does he want to sacrifice all those Lings to save that one infestor? I don't think so.
That is very true, and +1 attack for the the Protoss army. +2 is almost finished. And once that finishes, the reinforcing Blink Stalkers are going to do a ton of damage for Oz.
Losing some Lings here moving forward, but it was very important for him to see Oz's army. More Stalkers warping in here. Essentially, these Spine Claws are the only thing stopping this army, and I'm not sure if they're going to stop it, Torch.
I don't think so either, and the issue is that the Mutalisk tech out, but it's not going to be able to produce Mutalisk to be able to defend against this fight here. A lot of the Zerglings are melting to these Archons and the Stalkers are moving forward to be able to take down the Spine Crawlers very, very easily. Once these defenses are gone, there's really not going to be much left for Seal, and he's forced to GG.
Nice play by both players there. I really liked Seal's style, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But the problem was he didn't get enough links when he attacked Oz, and Oz was able to just take that game right away from him. Because when he neural parasited the Archons, he didn't actually kill the Archons or force them to do something that would have been really useful. Basically what he did with the Archons was kill sentries, which is useful, but when you already have Infestors, you could have just killed the sentries with the Infestors, not used all the energy there.
Yeah, Haksu looking extremely happy in this situation. He's getting the support from his team. His team's also extremely happy. It's really nice to get that first win. But going back to that game a little bit, Seal was in really strong position. He got that hidden third up. He was mining from it quite well, and then he got the fourth and had it defended. The issue was that he moved his army away from that third, or away from the fourth to attack Oz. But in moving that away, he allowed Oz to scout and destroy his expansion, and he didn't have the support like you were talking about for his very expensive Infestors. So he had the energy to do a lot of damage, but he wasn't able to use it all when he needed to, and from there, he was just on a back foot for the rest of the game.
Yeah, and the other thing to note is that if he had attacked that army a little bit differently, instead of trying to neural, if he just kept fungling and then walking away, what units could have really dealt with those Infestors? Like, if he fungled everything, because that army was pretty small, and then just moved back a little bit when they tried to chase fungle it again, and then fungle it again, that's usually what you see. He decided to go for the neural instead to try to use those Archons, which was creative, and I liked it. It just wasn't enough, because that one Archon was still there, and that Archon was killing Lings. And when those Lings died, the Stalkers were just like, well, if you're not blocking me from getting those Infestors, I'm going to get there eventually. I'm going to kill them.
And he attacked after the blink for the Stalkers was finished, and with that, the Stalkers were able to catch up to the undefended Infestors extremely easily. If Seal brought out a lot of Lings or Roaches to defend the Infestors, they would have been killed quite easily as well, because the Blink Stalkers could have just backed away and met up with the rest of Haksu's army and been able to defend very, very strongly.
I think if he had just waited, because the Stalkers came in afterwards, there weren't that many, there were like 2 or 3 when he first attacked, then if he just fungled those a few times and kept his Infestors back and kept them alive, or just straight up fungled a few times and then walked away, it would have been a good engagement. It would have bought him a lot of time to get his natural up, and then he would have been on 4 bases. He would have been in good defensible position. If he had done that, I think things could have gone a little bit differently.
Yeah, I completely agree. But again, Seal is a very inexperienced player in the booth. He showed a really nice beginning of the game, so it's going to be interesting to see how he progresses over the entire length of this Team League, to see if he comes back in the future weeks to really show that he can also play a late game in addition to the beginning game.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I was impressed by his play.
Yeah.
I think he was definitely trying to try a new style, new strategy, and it just didn't work maybe like he had practiced. So who's going to come out next for them? Will it be Sage? I wouldn't be surprised. That's who they chose second last time. And I actually don't recognize his face. That could be Sage. I actually, when I wasn't able to watch that game live, and I watched the VODs, but I didn't see what his face looked like, so I'm actually kind of embarrassed.
It's all right.
We'll find out. I mean, it's a very new team. Obviously, it could be someone who's never even played before.
That is very true. Only 2 players played in the Team League so far for NSH.
Yeah.
He's got orange or yellow headphones. It's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. I like those. They sell those at the convenience store, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
With the happy faces on them?
I don't know if they have a happy face. So that's So Chaki.
Jakji.
Oh, I was just looking at the So part of the name. I was like, oh, it's So Jakji. Wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so yeah, it's just Jakji. I've actually heard this name before.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of experience playing in the in-house tournaments for NSH. He's one of their better Terran players, but I don't know if Jakji stands for something in Korean. My Korean's not quite that good yet.
Yeah, I'm getting confirmation that actually doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah,
it's just a name he's chosen. It's an ID.
That's the difficulty as being part of the foreign community is when people choose IDs. It could be in English, it could be in Korean, which actually has a meaning. It could be someone's name, or it could just be them mashing the keyboard and something coming out, and it just sounds cool to them. But
so, also, a lot of the foreigners don't know this, but in Korea, people hardly ever use their IDs.
Yes, that is true.
No one, like, if you said Nesty, like, someone might be like, who is that? I've never heard of him. And you say, Im Duck, and they're like, oh my god, he's an awesome Zerg player. Who you're talking about.
That is very true. And it's something that we use in real sports. We don't have handles or we have nicknames for a lot of players, but what's used when you are actually playing the official matches or talking about someone with statistics, you always use their real name. And I'm not sure if that's something that esports should really be going for.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. I'm not sure if I agree with it myself, but we're going to take a look at coach interviews.
I certainly think it's possible. We have had a bad start, but we did only recently arrive in Korea. We have a lot of learning to do in the styles that are here, the practice regimes. I feel the players are doing very well in adapting to that. We always knew it would take a certain amount of time before we caught up, as we do feel there is a big gap there. But I think this week is probably our best week to show what we can really do. Yes, I did see the last game. It was very interesting. It was a great game to watch. I do feel they have some very strong players and are underestimated in this league. But we've done our research. We feel confident going into the game, and we'll see how it happens. Right. Well, obviously, our goal today is to show the best games that we possibly can and get the experience that we need in the booth. Of course, NSH are a great team, and we look forward to having some great games with them as well.
네, 저희가 저희 팀의 어찌 보면 첫 이미지를 만드는 그런 경기에서 이렇게 좋은 모습을 보여서 우경천 선수한테 되게 감사하게 생각을 하고요. 좀 제 생각에는 운이 많이 좀 따른 것 같아요. 그리고 포유팀 입장에서 조금 컨디션이 안 좋았던 것도 있었던 것 같고, 그래서 어쨌든 이 좋은 이미지를 계속 이어나갈 수 있도록 최선을 다할 생각입니다. FX 오늘 랑 하는데 저희 팀과 좀 비슷한 경향이 있는 것 같아요. 서로 방송 무대 경험도 없는 것 같고, 그리고 어떤 선수가 있는지 자세히 알려지지 않는 것 같기도 하고, 그래서 글쎄요, 오늘 어쨌든 무시 못할 팀이라고 생각을 하고요. 좀 준비를 많이 했으니까 또 좋은 경기 할 수 있도록 하겠습니다. 이번 GSTL을 통해서 물론 다른 팀들도 마찬가지겠지만 목표가 있다면 이제 거의 플레이오프 진출을 해서 결승전까지 가는 게 다른 팀들도 똑같이 목표라고 생각을 하는데, 저희의 좀 다른 목표가 하나 더 있다면 이번 GSTL을 통해서 저희 선수들이 방송에 대한 자신감을 좀 갖고 GSL 다른 대회에는 GSL 같은 무대에서도 긴장하지 않고 좀 성적을 내서 높이 올라갈 수 있는 그런 좀 많은 경험이 됐으면 좋겠고요. 그래서 선수들이 좀 앞으로 잘 해줬으면 좋겠습니다.
All right, guys. So I really actually liked that interview, except not the first interview where I was in the background looking really weird. But the second interview, obviously, I really liked his attitude. He's saying, we beat FOU, but that wasn't FOU, and it was just FOU in a kind of a tough spot. They weren't in the best shape when they played that match, so they're not getting overconfident. They're playing against a team who is in a very similar situation to them, a very new team, a team that doesn't have a lot of experience in the GSTL, and I really, really like that attitude.
Yeah, I love the little snippet that he threw in there. He was saying that FXO is a team that a lot of people don't know, but a lot of people underestimate them at the same time. And the way that he said it, he was actually also saying that, hey, NSH, we're actually a really, really strong team. We've got a lot of good players, it's just no one's seen them yet. And we are also underestimated. So really look forward to us in this GSTL season upcoming. So it's going to be interesting to see how these players do show their skill in this upcoming season.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually just, right now with NSH, I'm really surprised in a good way at how well they've done. And I've always looked at their team with a little bit of suspicion. I just looked at their team and said, are these guys really that strong? And I'd heard that Son was their best player, and I just wasn't really sure how I felt about it. And now I'm just seeing more and more of their players, and every time I see one of their players, I say, that guy's pretty good.
Yeah, Son was their biggest star, but this game's only a year old, and the stars that are here today may not be the stars next year. And that includes the entire esports industry.
Absolutely.
Everyone keep working hard, and you could be tomorrow's star.
You really could be. Now the map here is Tal'Darim Altar, so it looks like this guy wants to play a long game. Because, you just gave me this look like you didn't necessarily agree with what I was saying. I was like, no, Torch, it's going to be a long game, but maybe not. This depends on what Oz wants to do.
There are some rushes that you can do on this map as Terran versus Protoss, so he's got a lot of options available to him. However, as you were saying, the most likely choice is that it's going to be to play a macro game, make sure it goes to the longer
either
game.
Play a macro game or play off that a macro game is likely, and do something that's not a macro game to throw your opponent off.
Yeah.
All right, so this game is going to be starting here pretty soon. Will Oz get a second point, or will this newcomer tie up the score 1-1? Let's find out here at the GSTL. I am Wolf, and with me is Torch.
Not part of mine.